What do you think, Courtney? You think this is LeBron's last season in the league?
I think there is a better chance than not that it's his last season in the league. And you listen to what Perk said. This is effectively a 1-and-1. So it gives them the security for now, and then if they don't win a championship this year, which they're not any closer than they were when they lost to the Denver Nuggets in the first round, this roster is in no way a contending roster in the Western Conference. But if that doesn't happen, it gives LeBron the chance to go test free agency. You think he's going to leave Bronny James? He's going to leave Los Angeles? Absolutely not. It's there or nowhere else. And we've gone through this song and dance for a while now. Whether it was at the ESPYs last year where he tells us, well, today is not the day, that he wasn't going to be retiring. Then the question that came at him at the end of the Lakers playoff run this year where he decided to wait that out and see how everything played out. This is going to be rinse and repeat until we see no more LeBron James playing in the NBA. And I think when you have somebody at 40, and of course, we have the conversation about, are we truly appreciating him in the moment if we're always worrying about next year? I don't think that we can get beyond that, because what happens, what Rob Pelinka said in that clip that we played at the show open, a father and son duo could be something that's magical. What if it's not? What if this roster this year is not good enough to compete? What if LeBron, not saying that he would have any regret for playing with his son, that's been a goal of his for a long time, and he's able now to achieve that. But what if this year isn't great? The roster right now, the only way they're going to be able to upgrade it is by sending some of the players that they have out to get somebody else back in. I don't know when any of those trades are going to happen. So I think with LeBron taking this on a year-to-year basis, the way that he's been doing it and why he ended up signing that 2-year contract, which does give him the out after next season, this, I would put it on like LeBron last season alert watch right now, because it just feels like that's the way things are heading with the state of this roster.
But only one conference NBA final in the last 14 seasons for the Lakers. And CC, don't you get the feeling though, especially with Bronny James here, he's always wanted to play with his son, that this season is more about development. Let me get this young man acclimated to the league, and then the following season, I think we're going to play together.
I don't think it's it. I don't think this is it because of a couple of reasons. Number one is something you just mentioned there. Go back to 2022. This was the quote at the time. I would do whatever it takes to play with my son for 1 year. It's not about the money at that point. All right, you're going to play with your son for 1 year, but how much is your son going to be playing in the NBA this year? That's the big question. I think that really depends on Bronny's readiness for it, and from all accounts, he's not ready to be a contributor in the NBA. The G League team for the Lakers is right there. It's right there at their practice facility. I don't expect Bronny to be a big part of this team. Now, is it just kind of bringing him along and wanting him to understand all the off-the-court stuff that you have to learn along that way? Maybe, but for me, LeBron's skills have not diminished. Let's get back to the part of that quote where he said it's not about the money at that point. Well, he was willing to give up a little bit of money this year, or a good amount of money, for 1 or 2 or 3 players. But those guys were not available to him, so he did take the full amount. And he did give himself that option to get the full amount for next year. Wendy, I don't think this is it. I think he likes playing a lot, and I think until he sees his own skills, really feels his own skills diminish, that I don't feel like he's ready to walk away at any time soon.
Well, there's a deadline for him to walk away, and I'm going to tell you what it is here in a second. But first, we have to acknowledge that if you're 39 years old, of course you're year to year. You have no idea what injuries could happen or whatever. I think in any sport that would be the case. So yes, if you say it's year to year and his contracts are structured that way, absolutely. That's a true statement, what Perk said. However, he just played the most games he's played as a Laker. This last season, he played 71 games. That's the most since 2018. He was spectacular this season. 26 points, I think 8 rebounds, 7 assists. He had a great year, no doubt. He had one of the best shooting years of his career. His defensive situation is not great, but he can still turn it on occasionally. his son just signed a 4-year contract. His son's not going year to year. So I don't think his intention is to only play one more year, acknowledging that it could be out of his hands. So LeBron has very clearly laid out with his words and actions what his checklist is. He wants to be a Laker, regardless of how he gets frustrated when they don't make moves or whatever. He keeps signing contracts with the Lakers. He's about to enter his 7th year there. That's the longest run he's had with any team. He's changed teams all these times. He's clearly a Laker. He's not going anywhere. That's number one. Number two, he made it very clear he wanted to play with his son. Well, he's a Laker. He's got the max money. He's playing with his son. Check mark, check mark. What is the next thing that he wants? What has he made clear very clearly that is after playing with his son? He wants to be the owner of the coming expansion team in Las Vegas. So the biggest thing, other than health, that we're going to see that is going to determine when the end of LeBron's career is when the owners of the league set forth a timeline about when they're going to establish that expansion team in Las Vegas. Now, nothing is assured, and they keep, putting that asterisk on everything. But I suspect once the TV rights deals get wrapped up, which should be this summer sometime, and they have that done, they have the CBA done, the TV deal done, they've extended Adam Silver's contract, they're going to bring expansion to the table. And they're going to probably pick a year in which that's going to be. It won't be next season, so it'll probably at the earliest be 2 years from now. And that's what I think LeBron will be focused on. He wants to join up with partners to become the face of the franchise in Las Vegas. Whether or not that will happen, a lot of stuff has to happen. There's a lot of money things, a lot of complicated things that we can't foresee. But that's his next move. And if he can play 3 years, if it's not going to be for 3 years before there's an expansion team in Las Vegas, or he doesn't land the expansion team, then we'll reevaluate it. But I think he's still got a lot to give to the Lakers and a lot to give to the NBA, and he will continue to do that.
Do you think the addition of Klay, let's say, have a major impact on the Dallas Mavericks winning it all now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it will. And I'm shocked that those numbers stayed the same. And those numbers may have stayed the same because everybody else in the West is getting better. But when we look back at the NBA Finals, what did we see? We saw a team that loved to shoot the three all season long. Mavericks were second in the league in three-pointers attempted this year behind who? Well, the Boston Celtics. And the problem was they were 13th when it came to actually making the shots. And the Celtics defensively did a great job on the perimeter in the finals, but the Mavericks just were not knocking down shots. And those numbers were entirely too low, in the low 30s, to have a chance, I think even high 20s at one point, to have a chance to win those games. What's Klay Thompson going to do? He's going to come in, and at the very worst, he's going to shoot 38, 39, 40% from three. They can use him in the perfect way with Luka and with Kyrie, and he can take some of the pressure off them as well. Klay Thompson makes a team that just got to the finals even better. Are they immediately, definitively a championship favorite? Obviously not. But at 11-1, I could see putting down a couple of bucks on that, because that does not feel like an accurate representation of what the Mavericks' championship chances are.
What do you think, Corey?
I mean, I agree. I was surprised to see that the odds didn't change. And when you talk about the shooters that Luka's had around him throughout his career, he's never played with somebody like Klay Thompson, who shot 40% from three in 8 different seasons throughout his long NBA career. The upgrade is major. Like, I have a hard time thinking about Klay Thompson, though, at 34 years old, being part of something that has that word huge associated with it, but it should drastically change the odds, because he's going to be part now of, if you want to call it a big three, to where his role is different from what it was. I mean, the off-ball movement and what he can do, what he did in Golden State, vastly different styles between the Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, but that's an upgrade there. The corner three. I mean, Dallas is a team that attempted the most corner threes last season throughout the regular season, and they only hit 36% of them. That's one of the worst marks in the NBA. Klay Thompson on his own was right around 42%. So the movement element there for me, and what this does for the offense, Chris, you mentioned it. I mean, this takes the pressure off of Kyrie and Luka Doncic. Who was doing that in the 5-game series against the Boston Celtics? Not many players. And on top of that, I mean, I think with Marshall, with Grimes, now with Klay Thompson going into a starter's role, where he doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody, the way that it was primed to play out for him had he re-signed with the Golden State Warriors. The Mavericks coming out of the West, I think you probably end up putting Oklahoma City, you put the Denver Nuggets, you put the Minnesota Timberwolves, but right there, very firmly in the mix, is the Dallas Mavericks to get back to the place where they were last season.
You know, it's interesting, Wendy, because Klay Thompson not only is going to get shots, he's going to get a lot of open shots because of the kick. When Luka and those guys got into the middle of the lane, they got doubled. Those guys had wide open shots and still couldn't knock them down. And Wendy, last time I checked, the Dallas Mavericks went through Minnesota, went through OKC, the two teams everyone's been talking about, probably the top teams in the West. Don't you think the addition of Klay Thompson means that these guys are right back in the NBA Finals next season?
I mean, I wouldn't guarantee him back in the finals, but this fit is just tremendous because the Mavericks are a high-volume three-point shooting team. They want to shoot a lot of threes. Klay fit. They don't have great three-point shooters. Klay fits into that. Honestly, if he stays healthy, he's going to take 600 threes. And how many of them are going to be open? I mean, because he puts up huge volume, and they want that. It's not like they have to bend their offense. That's why this fit made so much sense. There was an emotional fit with the Lakers. The basketball fit with the Mavericks is perfect. There's only one thing I'm going to say about this. So there's two core reasons really why Klay's not a Warrior anymore. One is obviously the contract issue where he and the Warriors run different pages, and that shouldn't be ignored. That's a primary issue. The second thing is last year Klay's role collapsed a little bit. They took him out of the starting lineup for a while. They stopped playing at the end of games. And the reason they did that was because he struggled defensively on some of those perimeter players. And it was a better option at times to have Brandon Pajemski out there defensively. So the thing that poured rocket fuel onto the Mavericks last year after the All-Star break was putting Derrick Jones Jr. in there as their starting small forward defensively and letting him run around the perimeter. Their defense took off as soon as that move happened. It wasn't just Jones, but he was a turnkey that really had their defense clicking. So essentially what's happened here is they've replaced Jones with Klay Thompson. From a three-point and an offensive standpoint, that's a spectacular upgrade, and everybody's excited about it. But they are probably going to pay a price defensively. And that should not be overlooked. And there could be a time this upcoming season when Jason Kidd has to make a decision about whether it's the same situation that Steve Kerr was in this year. Does Klay Thompson fit defensively under certain circumstances at the end of games? And the answer may overwhelmingly be yes, because of the damage he can do on the offensive end. But there is a defensive downgrade that they've made here, swapping out Jones for Thompson. And I think that has to be baked in to looking at the Mavericks' chances as well.